It was just another spring afternoon in Lakewood, Colorado, until 9 police dogs suddenly surrounded 8-year-old Marie Thompson on her front lawn, forming an impenetrable circle around her small frame, refusing to let her enter her own home. The highly trained canines had abandoned their training exercise nearly a mile away, sprinting through neighborhoods with a single-minded purpose no one could understand. Now they stood, disciplined yet determined. As Marie's babysitter Jessica watched in horror, neighbors gathered on porches, and police radios crackled with confused chatter. What happened next would leave the entire community of Pinecrest Heights breathless. Before I continue this extraordinary story of instinct, protection, and the mysterious bond between a little girl and 9 police dogs, I want to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your state or country in the comments below. And if you believe that the incredible connection between humans and animals deserves to be shared, please hit that like button, subscribe to Heart of a Dog, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that sometimes, animals understand what we humans miss. Your support helps us bring more of these remarkable true stories to light. The quiet neighborhood of Pinecrest Heights had never seen anything like it. Jessica Parker, a college sophomore who had been babysitting Marie for nearly a year, clutched her phone with trembling fingers. She had just picked Marie up from Westridge Elementary, walking the 3 blocks home like they did every Tuesday when both of Marie's parents worked late. One moment they were chatting about Marie's art project. The next, they found themselves surrounded by police dogs that had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, racing toward them at full speed. "Marie, don't move," Jessica had cried, terrified the dogs might attack. But when the animals reached them, something inexplicable happened. Rather than showing aggression, the dogs, 9 German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois in police vests, formed a perfect circle around Marie, facing outward as if protecting her. More bizarre still, Marie herself appeared completely calm. "They're okay, Jess," the little girl said, her strawberry blonde pigtails swaying in the spring breeze. "They're trying to tell us something." Officer Ryan Martinez, the K-9 unit supervisor, arrived minutes later, breathless and bewildered. His team had been conducting a routine training exercise at Carson Park when all 9 dogs simultaneously broke formation and bolted. Nothing like this had ever happened before. "In 15 years with the K-9 unit, I've never seen anything like this," he told the growing crowd of onlookers. "These are highly disciplined animals. They don't just run off." The most perplexing part was the dogs' behavior. Each time Marie attempted to step toward her front door, they shifted position, gently but firmly blocking her path. They weren't aggressive or frightened, they seemed determined, almost purposeful. "Something's wrong," Marie said, her voice carrying a certainty that sent chills down Jessica's spine. "They don't want me to go inside the house." The neighborhood buzz grew louder as more patrol cars arrived, lights flashing against the backdrop of an otherwise ordinary Tuesday. Among them was Detective Curtis Washington, who worked with Marie's mother at the Lakewood Police Department. "Uncle Curtis," Marie called out, using her affectionate nickname for her mother's longtime colleague. Detective Washington approached cautiously, eyeing the circle of dogs. "Marie, honey, are you all right?" "I'm fine," she replied with that same eerie calmness. "But they're trying to protect me." Neighbors whispered among themselves, theories spreading faster than facts. Some suggested a break-in, others wondered about a gas leak or fire. Jessica tried reaching Marie's parents. Her mother, Detective Samantha Thompson, was finishing paperwork at the station, while her father, Dr. Thomas Thompson, was completing a surgery at Memorial Hospital. Dr. Thompson arrived first, nearly skidding his sedan into the curb as he jumped out, his surgeon scrubs still on beneath his jacket. "Marie," he called, rushing toward his daughter only to be stopped by Officer Martinez. "Sir, please stay back. We're trying to figure this out." Marie looked at her father, a flicker of guilt crossing her face. "Daddy," she said, her voice suddenly small. "There's something I need to tell you." The crowd fell silent, every ear straining to hear. "I found a kitten yesterday behind school. She was all alone in the rain. I brought her home and hid her in my closet." She glanced apologetically at her father, who was severely allergic to cats, the reason the Thompsons had never had pets. "I was going to tell Mom tonight. I named her Daisy." Dr. Thompson's face softened. "Marie, sweetie, that doesn't explain." But Officer Martinez had noticed something else. He tilted his head, nostrils flaring slightly. "Does anyone else smell that?" A faint, unusual odor seemed to be emanating from the direction of the Thompson house. It wasn't strong, barely perceptible, but something about it made the officer's expression change. "Everyone move back," he ordered suddenly, his hand moving to his radio. "Detective Washington, we need fire and hazmat here. Now." The atmosphere shifted instantly from curiosity to concern. Jessica pulled Marie closer, though the dogs remained steadfastly in position. Dr. Thompson's face paled as he stepped back, medical training kicking in as he recognized the growing urgency in the officers' voices. "What is it?" he asked. "What do you think is happening in my house?" Officer Martinez exchanged a significant look with Detective Washington. "We're not sure yet, sir, but these dogs." He gestured to the 9K9s, still maintaining their protective formation around Marie. "They're trying to tell us something. And in my experience, when animals behave this way, there's usually a damn good reason." As sirens wailed in the distance, announcing the approach of fire trucks and emergency vehicles, Marie knelt down beside the largest dog, a German shepherd named Max, according to his vest. She whispered something in his ear that no one else could hear. "What did you say to him?" Detective Washington asked. Marie looked up, her eyes reflecting wisdom far beyond her 8 years. "I didn't say anything," she replied softly. "I was listening." And that's when Max suddenly turned toward the house, his body tensing as he let out a low warning growl that raised goosebumps on every arm present. Something was very wrong inside the Thompson home, something that only Marie and 9 highly trained police dogs seemed to understand. But what exactly were they sensing that everyone else had missed? Fire Chief Brandon Miller arrived within minutes, his team quickly deploying detection equipment around the perimeter of the Thompson home. The devices began beeping frantically near the house's foundation, their digital displays flashing warning signals that made the firefighters exchange grim looks. "Carbon monoxide," Chief Miller announced, his weathered face grave beneath his helmet. "And the levels are dangerously high. It's been building up for hours." A collective gasp rose from the gathered crowd. Carbon monoxide, the silent killer. Colorless, odorless, and lethal. Had Marie gone inside after school as planned, she might have collapsed within minutes, falling unconscious before she could call for help. By the time her parents returned home from work, it might have been too late for the entire family. Dr. Thompson staggered slightly, the color draining from his face as the full implications hit him. "The water heater," he murmured. "We had it serviced last month, but the technician said the model was outdated. I meant to replace it this weekend." Detective Washington placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. "Don't go there, Tom. Your daughter is safe. That's what matters." Meanwhile, Marie remained surrounded by her circle of canine protectors. While the other dogs maintained their vigilant perimeter, the German shepherd named Max seemed particularly attuned to the little girl. His ears pricked forward whenever she spoke, as if he understood every word. Officer Martinez watched this interaction with growing fascination. In his 15 years working with police dogs, he'd seen remarkable examples of canine intelligence, but nothing like this inexplicable connection. "The carbon monoxide explains why they wouldn't let her into the house," he said, "but not how they knew. These dogs aren't trained for gas detection. We don't even have that capability in our K9 unit." Fire crews in full protective gear had entered the Thompson home, ventilation equipment humming as they worked to clear the deadly gas. But something still bothered Chief Miller. He studied his detection equipment with a furrowed brow before approaching the officers. "The gas leak explains part of this, but something doesn't add up," he said in a low voice. "The levels are high, but not high enough to trigger this kind of response from animals a mile away. There's got to be something else." As if on cue, Max began barking urgently, his attention suddenly focused on the second floor of the house, specifically, the window of Marie's bedroom. The other dogs responded immediately, their formation tightening around the little girl. "There's something else," Chief Miller said, his expression darkening. "Something we're missing." He radioed the crew inside the house. "Check the second floor, east bedroom. Possible secondary threat." Marie tugged at Detective Washington's sleeve. "That's where Daisy is," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "In my closet. Please don't let her get hurt." Jessica, who had been quietly observing from nearby, stepped closer to Marie. "Honey, how did you hide a kitten in your closet? Wouldn't she make noise?" A shadow of guilt crossed Marie's face. I made her a special bed in my old dollhouse. And I left her food and water before school this morning. She bit her lip. I was going to tell Mom tonight. I had it all planned out. While this conversation unfolded, more emergency vehicles arrived. Local news vans parked along the street, reporters setting up cameras at the police perimeter. The story of 9 police dogs abandoning their training to save a little girl was already spreading across social media. Detective Samantha Thompson arrived in an unmarked police car, panic evident on her face as she rushed toward the scene. Officer Martinez quickly briefed her on the situation while Dr. Thompson embraced his wife, both watching their daughter with a mixture of relief and bewilderment. But how? Samantha kept asking. How did they know? Inside the house, firefighters had reached Marie's bedroom. Their thermal imaging equipment revealed something alarming behind the wall of her closet, an area of intense heat that shouldn't have been there. Carefully removing a section of drywall, they discovered the source. The house's electrical wiring, old and faulty, had been slowly overheating for hours. The insulation around it was already charring, minutes away from igniting into flames. Had Marie opened that closet door after school, the sudden rush of oxygen might have caused the smoldering material to burst into flames. And with the carbon monoxide already filling the house, the combination could have been catastrophic. Outside, the firefighter's radio crackled with this new information. Chief Miller's expression grew even more serious as he informed the Thompsons and the officers of this second, equally deadly threat that had been lurking in their home. So you're saying, Dr. Thompson struggled to process the information, that if Marie had gone into the house today, she could have been overcome by carbon monoxide, or potentially caught in a fire. Either one could have. He couldn't finish the sentence. Samantha pulled her husband close, both parents looking at their daughter with newfound awareness of how close they'd come to tragedy. Officer Martinez knelt beside Max, studying the German Shepherd with new respect. How did you know, boy? How did all of you know? As the immediate danger was being addressed, scientists and animal behaviorists had already begun arriving at the scene, drawn by the extraordinary reports. Dr. Eleanor Winters, a renowned expert in animal cognition from Colorado State University, approached the police line, her eyes fixed on the dogs still surrounding Marie. This defies everything we understand about canine behavior, she told reporters. Police dogs are trained to follow commands, not to act independently like this. And certainly not to detect threats they haven't been specifically trained to recognize. Meanwhile, Marie had settled onto the grass, the 9 dogs now lying around her in a protective circle. She didn't seem surprised or frightened by any of this. If anything, she appeared to be comforting the animals, whispering to them and gently stroking their fur when they came close enough. Dr. Winters watched this interaction with intense interest. "May I speak with your daughter?" she asked the Thompsons. "There's something unusual happening here that goes beyond standard explanations." As Marie's parents nodded their permission, firefighter Olivia Jenkins emerged from the house, her protective gear making her movements awkward as she carefully descended the front steps. In her arms was a small carrier, and inside, visible through the mesh door, was a tiny gray kitten, unharmed but clearly frightened by all the commotion. "Daisy!" Marie called out, her face lighting up with relief. But as Jenkins approached to reunite the little girl with her rescued pet, something unprecedented happened. All 9 police dogs, animals trained to be vigilant and alert at all times, simultaneously turned their attention away from Marie and toward the kitten carrier. And what they did next left everyone at the scene of Pinecrest Heights completely speechless. The 9 police dogs, trained to maintain focus under the most chaotic circumstances, simultaneously rose to their feet and formed a perfect corridor between Marie and the approaching firefighter carrying Daisy's carrier. They stood at attention, heads high, as if creating an honor guard for the tiny kitten. What on earth? Dr. Winters whispered, her scientific mind struggling to process what she was witnessing. Officer Martinez could only shake his head in bewilderment. This isn't training. I've never seen anything like this. As firefighter Jenkins reached Marie, she knelt down and opened the carrier. Daisy emerged cautiously, her tiny gray form trembling. But the moment she spotted Marie, the kitten bounded into the little girl's waiting arms, purring loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. What happened next defied explanation. One by one, the police dogs approached the reunited pair, each gently touching their nose to the kitten before returning to their position. Max, the German Shepherd who had been particularly attentive to Marie, was the last to approach. He sat directly in front of the little girl, his intelligent eyes fixed on hers with an intensity that silenced the murmuring crowd. Marie smiled and whispered, "I know. Thank you for listening." Detective Samantha Thompson watched this exchange with growing astonishment. She'd always joked about her daughter's way with animals, how neighborhood dogs would follow her home from the park, how birds would land near her in the garden, how even the most skittish cats would allow Marie to stroke them. But she dismissed it as coincidence, the natural affinity children often have with animals. Now, faced with the inexplicable behavior of 9 highly trained police dogs, Samantha began to wonder if there was something more to her daughter's connection with animals than she'd ever allowed herself to believe. "Marie," she called softly, approaching her daughter with newfound wonder. "How did you know the dogs were trying to protect you? How did you understand what they wanted?" Marie looked up, stroking Daisy with one hand while Max rested his large head against her knee. Her answer was delivered with the simple clarity of a child stating an obvious fact. "I always understand them, Mom. They talk to me, not with words like we use, but I can feel what they're saying. Most people just don't listen hard enough." A hushed silence fell over the gathered crowd. Dr. Winters pushed forward, her scientific curiosity overriding protocol. "Marie, how long have you been able to communicate with animals this way?" The little girl shrugged. "Forever? I thought everyone could, but they just didn't want to." She looked around at the circle of adults, suddenly aware of their intense focus on her. "Can't you hear them too?" Before anyone could respond, Chief Miller approached with urgent news. "We've completed our sweep of the house. The carbon monoxide leak has been contained, and we've disconnected the faulty wiring in the wall. But we found something else, something that might explain the unusual concentration of gas." He led Dr. Thompson and Detective Washington away from the crowd, speaking in low tones. The surgeon's face paled as he listened, his medical training allowing him to grasp the implications immediately. "Are you absolutely certain?" he asked. Chief Miller nodded grimly. "The evidence is clear. This wasn't just a mechanical failure." Detective Washington's expression hardened. "You're saying someone deliberately tampered with the water heater? And the wiring?" "The gas valve was manually adjusted," Miller confirmed. "And the wiring in the wall shows signs of intentional damage. One small fire would have destroyed the evidence. We're looking at attempted arson, possibly worse." This revelation transformed the scene instantly. What had been a mysterious story of animal intuition suddenly became a criminal investigation. Detective Washington immediately began coordinating with uniformed officers to secure the perimeter and canvass the neighborhood for potential witnesses. Samantha, seeing the change in the men's demeanor, joined them quickly. Chief Miller repeated his findings, his voice low but intense. "Who would want to harm your family, Detective Thompson?" he asked. Samantha's mind raced through her recent cases, the drug trafficking network she'd helped dismantle, the domestic violence perpetrators she'd put behind bars, the corruption case that had led to several high-profile arrests in the Lakewood business community. "I've made enemies," she admitted. "But to target my home, my family." Her voice caught as the reality sank in. If Marie had gone inside. Dr. Thompson put his arm around his wife. But she didn't. Because somehow, 9 police dogs knew something was wrong. As the adults conferred in hushed tones, Marie remained surrounded by her unusual guardians. The news vans had multiplied, their satellite dishes extending skyward as reporters delivered live updates about the remarkable story unfolding in the quiet suburban neighborhood. Dr. Winters sat cross-legged on the grass near Marie, observing with keen scientific interest as the little girl interacted with the animals. Daisy had fallen asleep in Marie's lap, while the police dogs maintained their protective circle, occasionally glancing toward the street as if watching for threats. "Marie," Dr. Winters asked carefully, "did you know something was wrong with your house before the dogs came?" The little girl thought for a moment before answering. "Daisy was acting strange when I put her in the closet this morning. She kept trying to leave. I thought she was just scared of being alone." "And did you tell the dogs about Daisy when they surrounded you?" Marie shook her head. "I didn't need to. They already knew everything." As twilight descended on Pinecrest Heights, the emergency vehicles began to disperse. The Thompson house had been declared safe, though the family would stay at a hotel while the criminal investigation proceeded. The crowd of neighbors had thinned, though many lingered, still processing the extraordinary events they'd witnessed. Officer Martinez approached his K-9 team with instructions to return to the station. But when he gave the command for the dogs to follow him, something unprecedented happened yet again. The animals didn't move. All 9 remained firmly in position around Marie, Max laying his head protectively across her feet. "This is impossible," Martinez muttered. "These dogs have never disobeyed a direct command." Dr. Winters watched with growing fascination. "Perhaps they're still sensing something we're not." As if in answer, Max suddenly raised his head, ears pricked forward, eyes fixed on the darkening street beyond the police perimeter. "Everyone stay calm," Detective Washington commanded, his voice steady despite the sudden tension coursing through the scene. "Martinez, coordinate your officers. Standard perimeter sweep, pairs only. Nobody approaches any suspicious individuals without backup." The gathered police moved with practiced efficiency, fanning out toward the edges of the cordoned area. Flashlight beams cut through the gathering darkness, illuminating concerned faces of lingering neighbors and the shadowy spaces between houses. Samantha Thompson instinctively moved closer to her daughter, one hand on her service weapon. After 15 years as a detective, she had developed a sixth sense for danger, but tonight, she found herself trusting the instincts of 9 police dogs and an 8-year-old girl over her own. "Marie," she asked quietly, kneeling beside her daughter, "can you tell where this person is?" Marie closed her eyes for a moment, her small hand resting on Max's head. The German Shepherd remained perfectly still, his attention fixed on a cluster of oak trees across the street, partially obscured by the gathering dusk. "There," Marie whispered, pointing toward the very spot Max was watching. "Behind the big tree with the swing. He's been there since the fire trucks came." Detective Washington signaled to 2 officers, who immediately began moving toward the indicated location, approaching from different angles with weapons drawn. The crowd fell silent, every eye straining to see what might emerge from the shadows. A sudden movement between the trees sent Max lurching forward, a deep growl rumbling from his chest. The other dogs responded instantly, their disciplined formation tightening around Marie as a figure darted from the oaks toward the adjacent street. "Police! Stop where you are!" an officer shouted, but the shadowy figure accelerated, sprinting between houses with remarkable speed. 3 officers gave chase, disappearing around the corner. The radio crackled with their updates. "Suspect heading east on Maple, male, approximately 6 feet, dark clothing, lost visual near the creek path." Dr. Thompson wrapped his arms around his wife and daughter, his surgeon's hands trembling slightly. "We should get Marie somewhere safe," he urged. "If someone really did target our home." The implication hung heavy in the night air. Detective Washington nodded grimly. "We'll arrange a protective detail until we know exactly what we're dealing with." As they prepared to leave, Officer Martinez made one final attempt to command his dogs. "Return," he ordered firmly, using the German command that had never failed during their years of training. The dogs didn't budge. "I don't understand," Martinez said, frustration evident in his voice. "These are the best trained K9s in the state. They've never disobeyed direct orders." Dr. Winters, who had been observing silently, stepped forward. "Officer, I believe we're witnessing something unprecedented in documented canine behavior. These dogs are responding to stimuli we can't perceive." She hesitated, aware of how unscientific her next words would sound. "And they appear to have formed a bond with Marie that overrides their training." As if to confirm her assessment, Max pressed his body closer to Marie, his vigilant gaze never leaving the street where the suspect had fled. Detective Washington's radio crackled again. "Sir, suspect has evaded pursuit. We found something dropped during the chase." A pause. "It's a phone. And you're going to want to see what's on it." Within minutes, a young officer arrived, carefully carrying a sealed evidence bag containing a smartphone in a black case. The screen was cracked but still illuminated, displaying what appeared to be a surveillance application. "The phone was still unlocked when we recovered it," the officer explained. "It has multiple camera feeds." Detective Washington examined the device through the plastic, his expression hardening. "These are feeds from hidden cameras. Inside the Thompson house." Samantha gasped, instinctively pulling Marie closer. "Inside our home? For how long?" The officer swallowed uncomfortably. "Based on the stored footage, at least 3 weeks. There are cameras in the living room, kitchen, both upstairs hallways, and—" He hesitated, glancing at Marie. "And my bedroom," the little girl finished quietly. Everyone stared at her in shock. Daisy found one behind my bookshelf yesterday. She kept pawing at it. I thought she was just playing. Dr. Thompson's face had gone pale. You're saying someone has been watching our family for weeks? Planning this? Why didn't the security system detect anything? Because whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing, Detective Washington replied grimly. The phone contained schematics of your home security system. They knew how to bypass it. While the adults processed this disturbing revelation, Marie had become unusually still, her attention focused on something no one else could perceive. She whispered something to Max, whose ears immediately pricked forward. Marie? Samantha asked, noticing the change in her daughter. What is it, sweetheart? They're coming back, Marie whispered, her voice barely audible over the ambient noise of the emergency vehicles. But not just one person this time. Before anyone could question her further, the dog's behavior changed dramatically. All 9 animals shifted position, forming a tight circle around Marie with their backs to her, facing outward in defensive posture. Their collective growl was so deep and menacing that everyone in the vicinity took an instinctive step back. Get the Thompson family out of here now, Detective Washington ordered, recognizing the warning for what it was. Full protective custody. And I want those dogs to stay with them. Officer Martinez didn't argue this time. Where should we take them? The safe house on Westlake. No one outside this immediate team gets that location. Washington's voice was clipped, professional, but his eyes betrayed his concern. Whoever this is, they've been planning this for weeks. They're not going to stop because their first attempt failed. As Detective Washington coordinated the evacuation, Dr. Winters approached the Thompsons one last time. I'd like your permission to continue working with Marie, she said. What she's demonstrating, this connection with animals, it's beyond anything documented in scientific literature. Dr. Thompson looked skeptical, but Samantha nodded slowly. If she can help us understand what's happening, yes. But my daughter's safety comes first. Of course, Dr. Winters agreed. I just think there's more to this than we're seeing. These dogs sensed a threat that none of our technology detected. They saved Marie from dangers no one knew existed. And somehow, your daughter understands them in ways that even their handlers don't. As the Thompsons were escorted to an unmarked police vehicle, Marie paused, looking back at their house one last time. They didn't want to hurt just me, she said quietly. Samantha knelt to her daughter's level. What do you mean, sweetheart? Marie's answer sent ice through everyone's veins. The animals are saying that what happened today was just a warning. The real target was always you, Mom. And they're still coming. Before anyone could respond, the police radio erupted with urgent voices, officers shouting coordinates and calling for backup. In the distance, sirens wailed as new emergency vehicles sped toward Pinecrest Heights. What now? Dr. Thompson asked, his arm protectively around his family. Detective Washington listened to his radio, his expression growing increasingly grave. His answer confirmed the fears that had been building since the first dog had broken formation hours earlier. Multiple suspects spotted approaching from different directions. And according to dispatch, they're heavily armed. As the Thompsons were rushed toward the waiting vehicle, the 9 police dogs moved as one, their disciplined formation never wavering as they escorted Marie through the gathering darkness. Whatever danger was coming, these extraordinary animals had made their choice. They would protect the little girl who could hear them, no matter what approached in the shadows. The safe house on Westlake Drive sat nestled among towering pines, its location known only to a select few within the Lakewood Police Department. Inside, Marie Thompson slept peacefully on a leather couch, Daisy curled against her neck, while 9 police dogs maintained their vigilant watch, some patrolling the perimeter, others resting near the little girl, alert to any sound or movement. In the adjacent room, Detective Samantha Thompson paced the floor, her service weapon holstered but within easy reach. Across from her, Detective Washington studied the evidence gathered from the dropped phone, his expression growing darker with each revelation. It's worse than we thought, he said finally, looking up at Samantha. The surveillance footage, the schematics of your security system, the precisely timed carbon monoxide leak. This wasn't random. This was meticulous planning by someone who knows police procedure. Dr. Thompson, who had been sitting silently nearby, leaned forward. Are you saying this is someone you work with? Washington hesitated before answering. The digital forensics team found communications on the phone linking back to Victor Casimir. Samantha froze mid-stride. Casimir? But he's in federal custody awaiting trial. I testified against his entire operation 3 months ago. He's in custody, Washington confirmed grimly. But his network is still active. And according to these messages, he placed a $2 million bounty on your family after your testimony dismantled his Colorado trafficking operation. The weight of this revelation settled heavily in the room. Samantha's recent case against the Casimir Syndicate had been the biggest success of her career, a human trafficking ring that had operated across 5 states for nearly a decade. Her testimony had provided the final evidence needed to ensure Victor Casimir would spend the rest of his life in prison. So the attack on our home, Dr. Thompson began, was just the beginning, Washington finished. They wanted it to look like an accident, a tragic house fire caused by faulty wiring, complicated by carbon monoxide poisoning. No evidence of foul play. Samantha sank into a chair, the full implications washing over her. If Marie had gone inside after school. But she didn't, Washington reminded her. Because somehow, 9 police dogs sensed the danger from a mile away and broke their training to protect her. In the doorway, Dr. Eleanor Winters appeared, her notepad filled with observations after hours of monitoring Marie and her unusual guardians. I believe I might have a theory about that, she said quietly. The 3 adults turned their attention to the animal behaviorist as she joined them at the table. In all my years studying animal cognition, I've never witnessed anything like the bond between Marie and these dogs, she began. But there's actually scientific precedent for what we're seeing, albeit at a much smaller scale. She opened her notebook, revealing pages of careful observations and hastily drawn diagrams. Certain animals, particularly dogs, have sensory capabilities far beyond human perception. They can detect seizures before they happen, sense drops in blood sugar, even identify certain cancers through scent. But what's extraordinary here is the scale and specificity of the response. These dogs sensed carbon monoxide and faulty wiring from a mile away. Dr. Thompson asked skeptically. Dr. Winters shook her head. Not exactly. I believe they sensed Marie's connection to the danger. From my observations and the timeline we've established, it appears the kitten Daisy was the first to detect something wrong in the house. Marie said Daisy was acting strange that morning, trying to leave the closet. And Marie has this connection with animals, Samantha said slowly, remembering all the time she joked about her daughter's way with neighborhood pets. So the kitten somehow communicated its distress to Marie. And Marie, unknowingly, broadcast that distress to the police dogs during their training exercise, Dr. Winters continued. I believe your daughter may possess an extraordinary form of empathic ability specifically tuned to animals. She doesn't just understand them, she resonates with them on a neurological level. Before anyone could respond to this theory, Marie appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes with Daisy in her arms and Max at her side. They're gone, she said simply. Detective Washington was immediately alert. Who's gone, Marie? The bad men, she replied, as if stating an obvious fact. The ones who wanted to hurt Mom. They're not coming anymore. The adults exchanged confused glances, but before they could question her further, Washington's phone rang. The conversation was brief, his expression shifting from tension to disbelief as he listened. That was the tactical team, he said after hanging up. They've just arrested 6 armed suspects at a roadblock 5 miles from here. All known associates of the Casimir Syndicate. He looked at Marie with newfound wonder. How could you possibly have known that? Marie settled onto the couch, stroking Daisy while Max rested his large head on her lap. The forest animals told the dogs, she explained simply. The raccoons saw the men in the woods. The owls watched them from the trees. They've been keeping us safe all night. The room fell silent as the adults processed this extraordinary statement. Dr. Winters scribbled furiously in her notebook, while Samantha and Thomas exchanged a look that contained equal parts confusion, wonder, and parental pride. Marie, Samantha asked gently, how long have you been able to communicate with animals this way? The little girl shrugged. Always? I thought everyone could feel what animals feel. They're always talking, most people just don't know how to listen. As dawn broke over the safe house, news arrived that confirmed Marie's inexplicable knowledge. Not only had the 6 Casimir associates been arrested, but their interrogation had led to the discovery of a wider plot against key witnesses in the trafficking case. In a single night, the entire retribution operation had been dismantled, all because 9 police dogs had refused to follow their training and instead followed something much deeper. 3 months later, the Thompson family returned to a renovated home in Pinecrest Heights. The community had rallied around them, installing a state-of-the-art security system and helping rebuild the damaged sections of their house. Dr. Thompson had overcome his allergies enough to officially adopt Daisy, who now wore a tiny collar with a special tag, Official Canine Consultant. More remarkably, Marie had begun working with Dr. Winters and the Lakewood Police Department's K-9 unit in a groundbreaking program studying animal communication. Officer Martinez had even arranged for Max to be officially reassigned as Marie's personal companion, the first police dog ever to be designated to a civilian. On a warm summer evening, as Marie sat on her front lawn surrounded by neighborhood dogs who regularly gathered there, Samantha watched from the porch with a new perspective on her daughter's extraordinary gift. She doesn't just hear them, Dr. Winters had explained during one of their research sessions. She feels what they feel. And somehow they recognize this ability in her, this bridge between their world and ours. In a society increasingly disconnected from the natural world, little Marie Thompson had reminded everyone of a truth as old as humanity itself, that the bond between humans and animals runs deeper than we can understand, and that sometimes, wisdom comes from listening to voices we've forgotten how to hear. As the sun set over Pinecrest Heights, 9 police dogs, now famous across the country, continued their watch over the little girl who had taught them all that some connections transcend training, transcend explanation, and remind us of the extraordinary world that exists just beyond our perception, if only we have the heart to listen. If this incredible story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Heart of a Dog, and share this remarkable tale with someone who needs a reminder of the extraordinary bond between humans and animals. Your support helps us continue bringing these powerful true stories to light. What moment in Marie's journey touched you most deeply? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, sometimes the most important messages come from those who speak without words. Until next time, this is Heart of a Dog, where every animal has a story worth hearing.